Quiet on set. Picture is up. All right, roll sound.
Rolling.
Roll cameras.
Cam's rolling.
And 3, 2.
Hey everybody, what's going on, and welcome to Hank's Think Tank. I've got a great show for you guys here today. We've got Rand Henderson in, and he is our Montgomery County Sheriff and has been for quite some time. He is once again running for his position, and it's just good to have him in here. He's a wealth of knowledge, and this guy has been doing quite a lot. He's got a good campaign going. So welcome aboard, Mr. Henderson. How are you today? And
I'm very well.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you, Hank. Glad to be here.
I'd like to get started with a little bit of history. So how long have you been the sheriff of Montgomery County?
I've been the sheriff since January 1st, 2017. I was elected in 2016 in the Republican primary, went unopposed in the Democratic in the general election. I had no Democrat. So I'm halfway through my second term of office.
Wow. That's a good long time already.
Yeah, it's flown by really quickly, but I'm not new to the agency, so I'm not a new face. I started in 1994, so I went through the police academy May of 94, so it's been 29 years that I've been with the agency.
Okay, so, wow, one agency your entire career.
Yeah, when I was in college, I went to Sam Houston, and when I was in college, I worked at the Walls unit in downtown Huntsville, so a lot of people, my age were waiting tables or doing retail. Instead, I was guarding convicted felons and overseeing those that are, seeing the death penalty. So that's my other full-time job. And then right out of college, police academy, sheriff's office, and that's it.
Wow. And so you were on the streets for a while and decided, hey, I can do this, and decided to run for sheriff.
Yeah, well, I started in patrol and began my career there as a deputy. Had a blast doing it, loved it, but decided that promotion was the way I wanted to go. I wanted to work my way up. I didn't know that I would make it to the top, but promoted from deputy to corporal to sergeant to lieutenant and captain, and then was elected sheriff in 2016.
Fantastic. And so what size was the agency when you were elected?
We've come a long ways. It was barely 400 employees then, and here we are 29 years later, and we're almost at 1,000.
Wow. Yeah, we've grown a lot. I mean, the boundaries of Montgomery County are still the same, but boy, we've got a lot of people here now.
Yeah, we have filled the bucket.
Yeah. So how many uniformed officers do we have?
About 550 in uniform, commissioned. So there's a lot more that are in uniform. Our top responsibility is the jail. So we have licensed jailers that work that area. Our dispatchers are also in uniform. But as far as commissioned deputies, about 550 of the almost 1,000 employees.
Okay. And our jail's about, 1,200 beds, something like that?
1,253 beds. It is vintage 1987. There's been
awesome.
been a lot of additions. It was actually built as a 400-bed jail. And through additions over the years, some better than others, it's 1,253, so one of the larger jails in the state.
Wow. And what's the capacity usually down there? I mean, what do we usually run, 50%? 20%?
I wish. Last night we were at 944, which is down. So we're really excited about that. We had been staying over 1,000 quite a bit, quite often, and it's come down a little bit. Judicial efficiency drives that, and as the courts start to process the inmates through, because you got to remember, just about everybody there is innocent, and I say that in air quotes.
Right.
That's because the majority of who we have in the jail are pretrial felons. So those that are facing charges. Probable cause has been found. The judge has affirmed that through their hearings, but they're waiting trial, and that's so those judges really are the ones that move them through.
So it must be really hard to manage a facility that size with that many people, because you've got meals, you've got medical, you've got everything there.
Yeah.
So it's like almost managing a small city.
It is,
actually.
It is just like managing a city. So I'm the mayor of the worst city in town for the most part. So you can
That's
imagine.
too bad.
Yeah, exactly. You can imagine we do provide all services from medical to mental health to food service. There's even a commissary, which is a jail store. There's chaplaincy services of all different denominations. And, we do the best we can to keep the inmates safe and secure. Happy isn't really part of the criteria, but safe and secure is something that we take really seriously. And I was blessed to have spent, my time working at the prison when I was in college. So I have that base knowledge of corrections that I've really relied on over the years. It's where I learned to talk to hardhead criminals a long time ago. Kind of gave me a leg up when I got into the job. And I was also served as jail administrator 2013 to 2014. And so I know the ins and outs, the nuts and bolts, just enough to, really have a finger on the pulse of what happens in the jail.
Right. Wow. There's a lot going on there. I'd like to visit, but not behind the bars, but in front of them. You know what I mean?
We'll let you come in the front door instead of the back door.
That'd be nice. Yeah, I've never seen it, so I'd actually like to get down. And it's in Conroe, I assume.
Yeah, and I'll make a little plug right quick that we do have a Citizen Academy that we put on twice a year. We've been doing that twice a year since 1998. And it's an opportunity for citizens such as yourself to come in and see what we do and why we do it. And part of that's 13 weeks, 1 night a week. And there's an opportunity there for a jail tour as well as the other facilities, and to see what we do.
Okay. Would you equate that as like CERT training, kind of?
Not really. I mean, it's a little different. It's we call it infotainment. So you are going to learn a lot about the sheriff's office. You'll learn a lot about law enforcement. So some things that may confuse you, or you never really had a affirmation as to whether it was true or not. We can address some of those things, and it is entertaining, but it is heavily information packed. That's
cool. And I guess it includes like a ride along and stuff like that.
We really stopped doing ride-alongs. That used to be part of the package.
Okay.
But after all the assaults on peace officers, particularly the murders in Dallas, it resulted in 5 deaths. That the deputies really want to focus more on the here and now, and so we've taken the civilian ride-along out of the package for the most part.
Yeah. So is the Citizens Academy usually pretty full?
Yeah, and it's all word of mouth. We don't advertise. All you got to do is go to our website, and you can find the information there, mctxsheriff.org.
Okay.
We've got a coordinator that spends a lot of time, processing background checks and ensuring that someone either works or lives in Montgomery County. So we want it to be Montgomery County Central.
Okay.
And it's a great program and definitely worth your time.
Yeah, I'd like to do it. I think it'd be cool.
Love to have you. You'd be a perfect candidate.
That sounds great. All right. So let's talk about growth a little bit. So on this side of town, or on this side of the county, I mean, we've had explosive growth. It's incredible. And it's turned up in places that I didn't think it would, like just traffic problems. And now I'm starting to see actually drainage problems and stuff like that just due to the growth. How have you guys been able to manage that with traffic stops and with everything else that's going on? And what do you see in the future as far as being able to handle the amount of people that we have now? And, not everybody's a good guy that's here now, unfortunately.
Yeah, those are kind of the people we deal with. When I came into office, I inherited an agency that, I had some intrinsic knowledge of it, having come from the inside. And so there were some things that I knew that I wanted to do to help professionalize the agency. We kind of been stuck in an old era. We were definitely still a 20th century command and control agency. Well, I wanted to bring that to the forefront, especially with some of the social justice issues. We were out ahead of that because of our planning for the future. So I had an agency that didn't have a vision statement, a mission statement, core values, or a strategic plan. So within our first 100 days in office in 2017, we were able to introduce the strategic plan, which is 3 goals with 16 strategies used to accomplish that. So number 1 is reducing crime and the fear of crime. Number 2 is provide high quality professional service, which is really inward looking at the agency, trying to celebrate our employees and do better by them with awards and mental health and keeping them safe and healthy is our human commodity is really
building
important.
A cohesive team.
Absolutely,
I like it.
And then big number 3 is keeping up with the future population growth. Being one of the fastest growing communities in the nation comes at no small task. So you mentioned drainage. We've got a new commissioner. Matt Gray is doing a fantastic job. And so we work with him and his office specifically for the area that we're in right now to ensure that we build the right roads and improve the right roads. We drive the same roads that you do. There is no secret back way, and not all calls for service require lights and siren. But if traffic is backed up bumper to bumper, waiting at that stop sign, and there's nowhere to go, those lights and siren don't help anyway. So driving the same roads that you do creates an impediment for us with getting to you when you need us. So that's why we worked to redeploy our patrol force, to ensure that they weren't centrally located, to ensure that they didn't huddle in areas, whereas we should have them placed strategically in different areas waiting for that call to happen so they don't have that increased drive time. So we've been able to cut a lot of our response time just by being proactive in placing deputies in zones instead of just having them wander aimlessly throughout certain areas. And another area that we use is part of this.
So that's kind of the old beat cop strategy, isn't it?
It is. It's
I
just
like
not often applied to a county.
Yeah.
There's usually not enough resources. San Jacinto County may have 3 deputies working their entire 700 square miles. So our 1,077 square miles, we've got a lot more resources than that. And so we are able to, we have 3 precincts, and then we have districts within that, and then we have zones within the districts. So they're not required to stay in those areas as the calls for service dictate, but that's where they're assigned, and that's where they should respond from. So say in East Montgomery County, Porter is where a lot of the calls come from.
Okay.
It's the biggest population hub, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have a deputy assigned in the Splendora area where we don't receive as many calls, but we want them closer there so they don't have to make the long drive.
Makes sense. So are there substations?
There are.
Okay.
We've even got some brand new substations that have come online. We've always had the East Montgomery County Annex with a jail. That one's really important to us, particularly because of the jail, because that keeps the deputies and everybody in East Montgomery County. For most offenses, they don't have to drive to Conroe. Some they do, females, 17-year-olds, combative inmates with medical issues and such. They still have to take them to Conroe. But your run-of-the-mill arrest, hey, that's a huge benefit because it keeps them here instead of having to drive. We've added a substation in Magnolia that also has a jail, and we've added a substation in South Montgomery County that has a fleet maintenance facility. That's important.
Wow. Yeah, it would
because
be.
It is, because our main facility is in Conroe. The maintenance facility in Spring helps because we built the Grand Parkway. Now you can get from here to there a whole lot quicker, and so if you need bulbs or wipers or tires or brakes, you can drop in and get it fixed in Spring, and then be right back in New Caney ready to answer calls.
Okay. That took some strategic thinking. That's pretty good.
We're planning for the future. We're constantly looking for what's going to happen instead of trying to solve the problems that are already over our shoulder.
Right. So what do you see for the Sheriff's Department, let's say the next 5 years? How large do you think it'll be, and where do you think you'll be at?
Well, we're blessed because we're actually able to hire people. You see across the nation that the vacancy rates in agencies is just astronomical. We're pretty much full. We've got an academy now. We didn't have enough vacant positions to fill the academy up, so we're entertaining cadets from other agencies. We got a few from Willis. We've had some from Trinity before, and some different areas. So we're just absolutely blessed. But there's a reason for that. We've got a culture where people want to go to work here. I met 2 brand new deputies yesterday. One was from El Paso, and one was from San Diego. So not only did they want to leave the liberal areas that they were living and policing in, where they didn't get any public support, they wanted to come specifically to Montgomery County and specifically to the sheriff's office because it represented their values. No cop wants to work in an area where the community doesn't support them. I mean, we can't carry a gun, we can't use a gun, we can't use force unless the community gives us that power. And that's something that absolutely can't be forgotten. So I think we will continue to grow because we can. I'm trying to toe the line on the jail. I really don't want to spend your tax dollars on increasing the size of the jail. We may have to at some point, but I think through efficiency, we've brought our population down. Electing good judges is important. Don't discount them on the ballot.
Important. Yeah, absolutely.
They move those inmates through, so having the right judges in place is important. We've got a master plan for facilities as well. We've conquered a lot of that already. The Commissioner's Court have been great. We've already just opening up a brand new indoor firearms range. Has a
Really?
Yep.
Where's that at?
It's in Conroe, right by our headquarters.
Cool.
And it was something that I was told I couldn't do, and here we are. We're fixed to open. I got to.
That's great.
So they tell me I shot the first round in it just last week. So
Really?
Yep. And
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into building one of those.
yeah, it was a huge endeavor.
Oh, yeah.
Not to mention it's in the city of Conroe, so the permitting and all the issues that come along with that. But we've conquered that. It's got a 25-yard pistol deck, and it goes out to a 50-yard rifle deck with moving targets, light bars.
Wow.
It's really state of the art.
And so that's for agencies only?
It's for the county.
Okay.
So we'll be using it for not only the sheriff's office, but also the constable's offices, DA, county attorney, fire marshal. and it'll be a good use project. That's part of the problem now is our current range we share with the feds. So they have a lot of time blocked off that eliminates us being able to practice and shoot. So this is going to be just ours.
Wow. And being indoor, it doesn't matter what the weather is.
If we want to do low light shooting at noon, we just flip the switch.
That's cool.
Yep.
I like it. All right, so let's jump right into management.
Okay.
So obviously you've got a lot of managerial experience with the Sheriff's Department. Is there anything you can elaborate on?
Yeah, well, I got into management. First line supervision at our agency would be the corporal and sergeant ranks. We don't have the corporal rank anymore, but particularly the sergeant rank. Mm-hmm. Then you get into mid-management at lieutenant, which I promoted to lieutenant in 2002, a long time ago.
Okay. And
then you get into true division management at the captain rank, which I promoted into in 2009, and I held that until I was elected office. Some of my management training, I have a master's degree from Sam Houston in criminal justice management. I'm a graduate of the FBI National Academy, class 232 in 2008. That's less than 0.5% of all law enforcement executives have an opportunity to attend that.
Yeah.
And there's a Texas version of it that provides excellent training as well. It's the Leadership Command College through the Law Enforcement Management Institute of Texas. Graduated from that in 2004, and that's when I was a lieutenant, and really learned a lot. My management philosophy is authentic leadership. I really point toward that. You can't pretend to be somebody else.
Right.
Just because you dress up and put a cowboy hat on doesn't make you a sheriff. You've got to be who you are. So, and I don't live by other people's quotes. I don't live by other people's great deeds. I mean, I respect those. I study those. I learn from those. But I believe that you should be your own person as a manager. Look to you intrinsically as to what you know and what you've learned and what you've used to prepare yourself. And, rely on your ethics and your morals and understand the culture of the area that you're working in. And I've had pretty good success with that philosophy.
Obviously so. That's great. Okay. What about the budget? Now, I'm interested in the budget.
Me too.
So what's the annual budget of the Sheriff's Department?
It's right at $90 million.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like a lot, but when you're managing a small city, being the jail, I bet that goes away pretty quick.
Yeah, about 31% of that is specifically just for the jail.
Wow,
now you got to remember how labor intensive we are, though. So the majority of that money goes to salaries and benefits, and so we manage personnel using workload analysis. Okay. So we try to determine, the old way to do it was, okay, I need some more people. East Montgomery County is getting swarmed. We've got too many calls for service. Well, I'm going to ask for 20. Hopefully I'll cut that to 10 and maybe I'll get 5. That's the way it's always been done, and that's insane. That's not
shooting
the way
from the hip.
That's not the way I'm going to do it. So we have an empirical model where we actually analyze the calls for service, but also everything else that goes into it. Does taking a meal break, writing reports, getting fuel, vehicle maintenance, bathroom breaks, all these things account for time, and that time matters. So we work really hard, and we beat it into our deputies' head. They don't love it, but to account for all your time. So make sure that, if I'm sitting and writing a report, instead of that being free time, we document that this is what I'm doing. Now, I'm available to run the call for service, but if I document it. So we put all of that and crunch it into a workforce analysis, and that gives us a true number, an empirical number that we can present to Commissioner's Court. So there's no longer an argument as to if we need people and how many people. The argument shifts to where it should be is how are we going to work together to fund this? And our Commissioner's Court has worked really well. The first number that we came out with, and it's time to update it, but when we did the workload analysis, it said we needed 78 deputies. We're pretty much there. We've gotten a majority of those. Now the need has increased, and we know that. We just haven't done a new analysis. Now for the stuff side, all the operational budget, we zero-based budget. Never been done before in Montgomery County.
It needs to be done. Yeah.
So we start at ground zero every single year. So what was common in the past with the line item budget was if you wanted an increase, you would just say 5% over last year because inflation or just because I need more stuff.
Right.
Well, there could be a lot of one-off purchases in there that you're not going to buy. So why are you budgeting for that year after year after year? You've forgotten about it. It's monkey management. So zero-based budgeting, we truly build a budget from the ground up. We hold the managers accountable with operating within that budget. Now, I have contingency because there are things that come up that they're going to have to buy, but they have to justify those one-offs every single year, and they don't get to stick them in their budget and hide them year after year. So we've been able to mostly hold the line and give money back sometimes on the operational, and in other years we're able to just maintain without having to ask for increases year after year.
That's fantastic.
I think so. And that's part of the strategic plan as well. That's part of that preparing for the future population growth.
Okay. So do you have any numbers on population growth expected in the next few years?
Well, when I got here with the sheriff's office, we were sitting around, 300,000 people, 250,000 people 30 years ago. Now our census came in over 700,000. So we're climbing toward 800,000 now, and It's just going to continue to grow. The tax base is rising. Commissioner's Court has recognized the need to support law enforcement. We work really well together, and of course I never get everything that I need, but right off the bat we were able to add 16 deputies to East Montgomery County. That's impactful. I mean, one or two you don't notice as much, but when you add 16 right off the bat, because East Montgomery County matters, and it matters to me, and it matters to my partners like Rowdy Hayden, and we want to get things done together. That's why I ran on a force multiplier. So together, if you're a fan of Covey, if you know about synergy, so together we're stronger than the sum of our individual parts.
Right.
And I firmly believe that we can, sometimes our personalities clash and we don't get along on a personal level, but for the greater good and for the community and for moving things forward and keeping the community safe and the deputies safe too, we all work together to ensure we, crush crime together.
Okay, fantastic. So what do you see as the biggest problem with crime these days? I mean, I know that drugs has always been a thing. I guess it'll probably always be. But does Montgomery County have a specific issue that just seems to be recurring over and over and over again?
We have quite a few of those. We really monitor our quality of life crimes to, that's what affects the normal everyday person. Somebody breaking into their car, or, even simple things that, are a big deal that, aren't huge crimes, like somebody running over your mailbox or vandalism, things like that.
Right.
So we really focus on those, and that's part of goal one, reducing crime and the fear of crime. So that's important. But the big stuff right now, you nailed it with drugs. My jail is full of burglars and thieves and car thieves. But the bottom line most of the time is drugs. They're burglarizing a house to feed a habit. They're trying to get cash to buy more, whatever their substance is.
Right.
And in my career, I never thought anything would be worse than probably methamphetamines. It destroys lives.
Yeah,
it
meth
destroys
is horrible.
bodies.
It does something to your soul, I think.
It does.
Yeah.
And it's almost impossible to recover from it once you get deep into that substance.
Yeah, I would think
But
so.
then it happened. Here we are with fentanyl. And it's the new crisis that we're dealing with. And it's awful. It goes back to the border. I get asked all the time, why do you say that you're a border county? We're all border communities because we're affected by the drug trafficking that's pushed up here from the cartels in Mexico, the human trafficking and the human smuggling. I call it the three-headed snake. So we're constantly battling that. But fentanyl is kind of the face of what we're dealing with.
Now, fentanyl used to be just a standard pharmaceutical, right? But now it's just made somewhere in Mexico in labs, I guess, like a lot like meth was.
Correct. It's if you find it pharmaceutical grade, it's usually a slow release patch for those that are terminally ill, recovering from serious surgeries. Not something that's prescribed very often. We do see that on the illicit market, so that's still around.
Okay.
But the fentanyl we're talking about, the precursors come from China. The chemicals used to make fentanyl come from China. They're sent to Mexico, where the cartels assemble that, generally in depressed pills. And we're talking about a highly, highly potent drug.
Super addictive as well, I would imagine.
So take a salt shaker and put a few grains of salt out, and that's the amount that it would take to overdose and sometimes fatally overdose. Anywhere between 2 and 5 milligrams is all it takes.
Wow.
And what we're seeing the cartel do is assemble this fentanyl into pills that look like prescription pills, standard, say oxycodone or Percocet, Adderall, whatever the prescription drug of choice. Remember we had an opioid crisis not long ago,
right,
with a lot of people that got addicted to prescription pills. So they're still looking for that on the black market. Well, this is super cheap, A little bit goes a whole long ways. We're seizing this stuff by the pound. Remember, just a few grains of salt can kill you, but we're seizing by the pounds. Last year in 2022, we had 38 overdose deaths, and it's still climbing because toxicology results are still coming in.
That's just here in Montgomery County?
Just Montgomery County.
Wow.
The hospital district runs an overdose every day. That's our ambulance service for the county. They have one every day. 2017, we had one fatal that could be tied to fentanyl. In 2016, we'd never heard of it. So
Wow.
that's how fast this is growing.
And so they're just smuggling that crap over from the south. And
So when it hits the United States from the cartel, it just goes into the traditional drug trafficking networks where they were selling methamphetamine and cocaine and marijuana.
Wow.
It just hits that same market. Problem number one, drug dealers will lie to you. So if you say, here's $30, I want a Percocet. They'll give you a pill that looks just like Percocet, but you don't know what it is. Number two, drug dealers don't have great quality control. So half of the pill could have 5 milligrams. The other half of the pill could have none. Or the whole pill could have 1 milligram. The next pill could have 20. So you never know where a fatal dose is. And so I
never thought about drug dealers needed to look at their business model.
Yeah, they're not they're
Wow.
and the business model is really important too, because the question I get asked is, why are they selling this stuff if it's killing their clientele? Well, it's not killing all of them. It's highly addictive. It's a high like no other. It's a high that they crave.
Yeah, I guess people are just coming back.
They keep coming back for more. Test strips have been popularized to try to find out if there's the presence of fentanyl in pills.
Yeah, I've heard some controversy about that. So what's your take on that? Do you think
if we can,
test strips is a good idea or a bad
if it could
idea?
save one life, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing is you got fentanyl addicts that are using it for the presence of fentanyl. So they want the fentanyl in those pills. So it's kind of the wrong mindset. That's not what it's supposed to be, the absence of fentanyl so you don't overdose. But if you've got somebody that would use it for the right reason and we save a life, then I can't do anything but support it.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Yep.
And there's always going to be, a bad use for anything you come out with.
Sure.
I'm sure people use water bad. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, well, if fentanyl wasn't bad enough, we've got a nasal spray, Narcan. Naloxone is the generic name for it.
Yeah, I know the fire department keeps Narcan on all their vehicles.
Thanks to
such.
Governor Abbott, we all have it too. We just got a huge distribution. I keep hitting the microphone.
It's okay.
We just got a huge distribution of it, and all of our deputies are carrying it across the county. It's a wonder drug. If somebody's overdosing, they go from almost dead to alive, just like that.
Wow.
So it would make perfect sense that now we have a new drug that's being introduced. The DEA just came out with a bulletin on it. It's called Trank. The drug, that's the street nickname, Trank or Philly Trank. Trank is in tranquilizer, TRANQ.
Okay.
So Google it. It's awful. It's coming out of Puerto Rico, and it's finding itself mostly on the East Coast, although City of Houston has had some cases. Fentanyl is an intense, incredible high. It just doesn't last very long.
Okay.
So now they're mixing it with this animal tranquilizer. Yeah, it's called xylazine. So now you've got fentanyl mixed with xylazine, and it's this incredible high that lasts a long time. And now this incredible high, if you overdose on it, Narcan doesn't work.
Oh, really?
Yep. So it doesn't work at all. It has no effect on it. So we're seeing.
I wonder why.
It's just the composition of it. It just doesn't bring you back.
So I guess they're just going to have to come up with something else to combat it.
Who would think they would come up with something that's worse than fentanyl? And
Yeah,
here they
that's
are.
crazy.
I was just saying a few minutes ago, I didn't think anything would be worse than meth, and it keeps happening in our lifetimes.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I laughed, but it just makes me wonder why people would even try that stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
Animal tranquilizer and all that. I mean, it just.
Well, once you read about it and see how horrible it is, as far as it creates open festering wounds. So they're injecting this into the open festering wounds, having to dig in the open skin. Yeah, it's awful. Yeah, just read about it. It'll don't do it after breakfast. But
and so this is an injectable thing
for the most part. Yes.
Wow, man.
I know.
And I thought heroin was always the worst thing out there.
And heroin is terrible. We don't see the quantities of heroin that we've seen in the past. That's another downside. There's no upsides, but another downside of fentanyl is it's got its own brand of addiction. So it's got a mental and a physical addiction. Heroin has the same, but you can't use heroin to stave off the physical addiction that you have from fentanyl. You need more fentanyl.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the cartels are always going to find a way to market a new product.
Yep, and that's
Yeah.
that's our border crisis, and one of those products is people. Between human smuggling and human trafficking, introducing people into the sex slave industry, we're combating that on a regular basis.
So we have a problem with that here in Montgomery County too.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Well, think
See,
about.
I thought that was a Houston thing mainly.
Oh no, it's everywhere. Think about prostitution. We used to have a worldview. Think cops. They're just thinking that prostitutes are just a scourge on society, somebody that belongs in jail.
Right.
So they come in that back door I was talking about, but then they get released out the front door, revolving circle. Well, what woman gets into prostitution because they think it's a great career choice?
Yeah.
It's a great health benefits. Is it what's the benefit of being a prostitute? Well, you get to live. You're controlled by a pimp. You're almost always drug addicted, and you're selling your body. So we view that more of a human trafficking rescue opportunity instead of just a prostitute. So we've developed a proprietary method of investigating this, developed by one of our detectives. It's now become ubiquitous across the country, so that's something we're really proud of. Our vision is to be a leader of public safety services in the state of Texas, and that's but one example. So we get these prostitutes an opportunity to leave that life. We have counseling services available. When we catch them, they're introduced to that. And if they choose to walk away, now there's usually an angry pimp, man or a woman, oftentimes a woman,
yeah.
but we can get them away from that pimp, get them away from the drugs, and try to reintroduce them into life. A lot of the times they have kids. Sometimes they're kids themselves. And of course, when we get a 15, 16-year-old that's doing this, they don't have any choice. They're generally reported runaways. We pull them out of the life. Now, if one of the prostitutes is given these services, refuses them, then the criminal charges are still going to apply. And we're only going to make this offer once. If they, we've got some prostitutes that we continually pick up, continually offer services, and then they're back in the life. At some point,
Just because they're severely addicted, I would imagine.
it's a lot of it, but then we offer those counseling services to get off the drugs too. And it's I believe in personal accountability and personal responsibility. You got to help yourself. If I can only do so much if you won't help yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
Think about the labor market. These migrants, these immigrants that come to the United States, they're paying a price. They've got to pay the cartel. They've got to pay the toll at the bridge to be able to get to the United States. Well, they don't have any money. So now they become indentured servants. So you're seeing them as landscapers. You're seeing them in restaurants. So we've got some huge Department of Labor cases too. So that is modern day slavery, both in the labor market and the sex trafficking industry. It's right here every day.
Wow. Is there any way that you can, I guess, as just a civilian, to recognize something like that? And if you do, is it see something, say something type of thing? Or?
Absolutely. You'll see some signs and that we've tried to put up in different businesses across the community, particularly those that are vulnerable to it. Massage parlors, nail places, restaurants, there's all common places. So if somebody is in need of rescue, we try to get them, to where they can see that there are opportunities for them to get out of that, out from under that bondage, that servitude.
Wow.
So if if you see somebody that you think may be being trafficked, whatever that clue may be, we want to know about it.
Okay, real good. And so do you have a campaign website?
I do. It's randhenderson.org, R-A-N-D, henderson.org.
Okay.
And we've got some good information on there where you can volunteer, donate, if you anything that you would like to do with the help with the campaign. There's some information about me there too, and it's a growing website. We're on social media, just about every platform except TikTok.
Okay.
And you can find me on there too.
Yeah, I bet. All right. Do you have any speaking engagements coming up?
I try to do as many as I can.
Okay.
An opportunity like this is always welcome. I just left the Conroe Rotary. Any civic group that would like for me to speak on the agency, doesn't have to be political. I love an opportunity to brag on our agency and talk about all the great things we're doing, the things we're going to accomplish, and what we can do for you, the citizen.
Okay. And one final question. What do you hope to accomplish in your next term as sheriff?
Well, I've got this strategic plan. We've got 15 of the 16 strategies moving forward. Some are completed, like our personnel redistribution. We've got that completed. But a lot of them are still in progress, and there's still one strategy we haven't been able to start yet, the individual development plans, and that's part of Goal 2. So I want to finalize a lot of the elements of the strategic plan, finish some of our building projects, and continue to keep up with trends and celebrate our employees, keep them healthy and well.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I appreciate you coming in and talking with me today. And if there's anything we can do to assist you in your campaign, make sure and reach out.
Very good. Thank you, Hank. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, there you have it, guys. Rand Henderson. And he is our Montgomery County Sheriff running for another term. And I think you need to take a look. Go to his website, check it out, look for him on social media, and catch him whenever he's available at these speaking engagements. You know, it's important for us to be educated voters. We can't just vote for a name or a slogan. We have to vote for individuals who we feel that our thoughts and feelings and accomplishments are in line with. As long as we do that, we'll always move forward as a nation. When we stop doing that, we don't want to go there. I'm Hank Vatt. This is Hank's Think Tank, and it looks like we're out.